So for today's YouTube video, I've got a clip for you guys from one of our training calls in our school community for remote sales reps. So in this clip, we are reviewing a mock sales call, and what we end up doing a deep breakdown about is how to probe for the problem, how to ask good questions that reveal real problems, how to press on pain, and how to use that information to formulate a solid pitch. If you ever get stuck in your sales calls on what you should be asking, if you ever want to know how can I probe deeper and why should I even do this? Why is it relevant? Where else does this help me in the sales call? We answer all of that in this recording. Again, it's just going to be a recording from one of the group calls that we do every Monday and Wednesday in our sales community. If you like the call, if you want to be a part of the call, click down below and jump on. We actually do one completely for free every Monday, and the one you're about to watch is from that free Monday call. It's completely free call, so anyone can jump on. But yeah, enjoy the video. If you want to jump on, click the link below.
Cool. All right, Waji, go ahead, share it, and let's take a look.
Let me just throw the link in the chat.
I'm doing good, man. You?
Well, I'm doing quite well. Thanks for asking. Santiago, today, as you know, we have this sort of appointment fixed so we can figure out whether this program is the right fit for you or not. So this is how this call is going to be. I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions to understand where you are coming from and where you are trying to go.
Yep.
Now, with some of these questions, you don't have to answer all of them, but if you answer as many of them and you sort of like open up to me and you give me as much as I need, I'll do my very best to help you in any sort of way, because the agenda of this call is to just help you in any sort of way. So by the end of this call, even if we don't move forward with us and we are not able to do any sort of business together, you still might have some sort of value that you can take out of this call. Does that?
First thing I say, I think you're over framing the call, right? You're overselling it here. I've found, and I'm not going to say, hey, if you do it this way, it's just not going to work, right? Because at the end of the day, you do have to find your own style and what you find works for you. So definitely, if you feel comfortable doing it that way, feel free to test it out. But personally, what I found when I'm on calls, when I'm looking at calls, frames work really well when they flow a little bit more naturally. And the bigger of a deal, and this goes for a lot of aspects of the sales call, whatever you make a big deal, the prospect will also make a big deal, right? So when I'm framing the call, I want this call to feel as conversational as possible. And that way, there's just a little bit more of a natural flow to the conversation rather than them feeling like, all right, I'm about to enter a conversation where I'm just going to be, you know, he's got his clipboard out and he's going to ask me questions one by one and write each one down. And it's not really going to, like, I'm not, like, it doesn't give off that I'm speaking with, you know, an expert here at whatever it is being sold, right? So if there's any way you can shorten it down by simply just being like, hey, so I'd love to hear what you've got going on, where you're struggling when it comes to your marketing and acquiring more clients. And I'm happy to see where we can help to the best of our ability. If it makes sense to work together, then we can talk about that. Sound good? Cool. You know, and just flow into the conversation. Does that make sense? Cool. And again, you don't have to word for word it the way I just said it. That was literally just off the top of my head. There's lots of other ways I've framed. It's more about the flow, the energy, the conversational aspect of it, more than, okay, let me write it down and make sure I say all these specific words that Ty just said. Make sense? Cool. Let's keep listening.
That sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So Santiago, enlighten me about how did you hear about us?
I actually found you guys from a YouTube ad. I don't remember what I was watching, but I saw an ad. Talked about, helping, businesses with their marketing and like generating more leads. So I thought that could be good for me because I have a fitness coaching business and I don't really have like, the only way I'm really getting leads right now is just like organic, like posting on social media and whatnot. I was wondering if there was like another way I could get more consistent leads and prospects.
What specifically did you saw in that ad that really struck a note with you and made you want to book this appointment in the first place?
I mean, really, it was just talking about how they could kind of teach us how to run ads and whatnot. Because I have no idea where to get started with that. So.
And based on what I just heard from you, you are currently running sort of organic ads, right?
No, not really ads. I'm just posting like content
Organic
on
sort
social
of
media.
organic content that you are posting. How's that working out for you? Like,
I mean, I guess it's all right. Like I'm getting some clients, but it's just kind of inconsistent. Because sometimes, like if a video blows up or whatever, you get like a ton of leads from that. But it kind of just depends on whether or not that happens. I feel like maybe if I were able to run ads, it could be a little bit more consistent.
You mentioned that you are.
So far he's telling us one of his main issues is the inconsistency. What are you thinking right now, Waji? Where are you trying to take the conversation from here?
I will probably ask him about like what sort of inconsistencies that he's facing.
And what kind of information are you trying to gather? What are you trying to learn?
He is not getting like um
But don't tell me about him. I want to know based on what we've heard so far. And this is a question for anyone. If you guys are on a call with someone, you just kicked it off, you know you're there to talk about advertising. He said he's got a fitness coaching business. He's only getting leads organically, and he just said it's been inconsistent. It's all right, but it's inconsistent. If a video blows up, it's good, but again, it's inconsistent. What are we trying to learn more of here? What are you guys thinking in terms of questions you might want to ask, or just overarchingly what you want to understand more about his current situation, where he's at and what he's dealing with?
so based on what he has said, like I think sometimes the algorithm kind of favors him, some days it doesn't, because he's depending on the algorithms of social media platforms.
So that's what's going on, but what do we want to learn? Anyone have any ideas?
I just joined, so I'm not sure if I got the full context. I would ask, like, with you being inconsistent, just relying on your organic blowing up or not, like, is that actually taking you to, your goal in terms of getting new clients?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
We also had a message in the chat that says why it is inconsistent.
Yeah.
Not yet. Not yet. These are all good questions, but there's something I want to establish first before we get into those types of questions. Anyone else have any ideas?
Maybe how long he's been doing this, so he can track how inconsistent it is.
Another good question, but not yet. Not yet. Remember, for those of you that were on the call on Wednesday, what I said was whenever a prospect is speaking about their problems or just about anything, as sales reps, and even just in lots of professions, what you never want to do is be in a place where you're moving on or asking questions or continuing on the conversation with information that's assumed. I never want to move forward with assumed information. So me asking questions like, why is it inconsistent? Okay, what's the goal now? What's next? All of those questions are good, but I'm asking questions about something that I haven't quantified yet. Because let me ask you guys, when he says it's inconsistent, what does he mean by that? Does anyone know?
Maybe that's the time to ask what this inconsistency looks like for you.
Absolutely, because the answer is we don't know. I have no idea what he means by inconsistent. So that's what I want to understand first, because the longer we continue the conversation with terms that I don't actually have defined, the messier the call gets. The more I'm running and flying blind. Because he just said inconsistent. I have no idea what inconsistent is about. And then we're going to talk about the inconsistency, talk around it. Why is it inconsistent? If he gives me the answer, this is why it's inconsistent, he's still giving me an answer about something that I don't know what is. Does that make sense? Hopefully it's not too confusing. So the first thing I want to do is, and this is what helps you become really good at probing. He just gave me some information. Okay. Do I fully understand everything that was said? Okay, I understand fitness coaching business. He doesn't need to elaborate too much on that. I get that. He's only getting leads organically. Okay, so something about posting content. Maybe I want to clarify that as well. The leads he's getting is inconsistent. What does that mean? So let me ask about that. Let me clarify. Hey, when you say inconsistent, what's actually happening? What's going on? Can you tell me more about that? Again, there's a million ways to ask it, but that's where the probing starts to get in. And this is where I say you want to make sure that we're asking questions and probing deep, not wide. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. Let's keep moving.
You are getting some clients. Specifically, how many clients have you been able to sort of get through that organic sort of reach?
Right now I have 3.
And good. This is along the lines of asking it. That's another way. This is a way, now we're quantifying it. If we follow that track, okay, how many clients have you gotten lately? How many clients did you get last month, this month? That's another way of figuring out what inconsistency looks like by just asking about the numbers. And then if he says, well, this month I got 5 clients, last month I got 1, now we're starting to quantify consistency. So this is good. This is good.
You got 3 clients. And for how long have you been doing that?
A couple of months now.
How many months? If you just, let's just say.
About 2 to 3.
2 to 3 months.
I have to rewind. So
you mentioned that you are getting some clients. Specifically, how many clients have you been able to sort of get through that organic sort of reach?
Right now I have 3.
You got 3 clients. And for how long have you been doing that?
A couple of months now.
How many months? If you just, let's just say.
About 2 to 3.
2 to 3 months. And does getting 3 clients in 3 months aligns with the goals that you have set for yourself?
Nah, not really, man. I mean, I figured I might have more than that by now, but I mean, it's not the worst. I do have some clients, and they're like recurring, but I'd like to build up the client base more.
Let's just say, like, what's the dream? Like, if you have to paint a picture for me, like, what would be a really good month sort of look like for you, where you get a specific amount of clients in a month?
Dude, if I could get like just like 20 clients, like I could be making like pretty good money from that. Like I could probably leave my job and be able to go full time with it.
And do you also have sort of capacity to serve those?
Did I hear that right? Hold on one sec. Let me go back.
Dude, if I could get like,
let's just say, like, what's the dream? Like, if you have to paint a picture for me, like, what would be a really good month?
I thought you were just asking what like a good month was him. Okay. Well, it was for him. Okay. So right now we're starting to move forward. We're starting to move into goals. I would still want to spend more time in the, problem and ask some of the questions like we saw in the chat there. First, we define the inconsistency, then we figure out why it's inconsistent, then we keep going, right? What's your thought process there on moving into goals?
I was trying to figure out how many clients does he actually want? Like, what's the goal? Why does he need our help?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And why move on to that before fully clarifying everything about the problem? Again, not saying it's wrong, just want to know your thought process.
Because I probed him later, like, he wants to quit his job because he's doing a job where he's being disrespected every day.
So you got that, and then you went back to probing again afterwards.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. That can work. The only thing that I would say to be careful on, again, there's no one way to do this, but again, I'll speak to my experience and what I've seen. You do want to be careful of not bouncing back and forth too much. If you're just asking like one quick question and then getting back into probing about the pain and problem, because that's where you're at, that's fine too. But you want to be careful about bouncing back and forth, because a lot of the probing and the questions we ask, a lot of what we're doing is building tension and building a reason or need or urgency for change, right? And when you're having a conversation about problems and when you're having a conversation about goals, they they elicit different emotion, right? And what happens when you go from asking problem questions to asking goal questions, because problem questions usually make someone recognize, like, man, I really got to change. Like, this is a problem. I didn't realize how big of a problem this is. And then goal questions usually are like, wow, like I want to get there. This is exciting. I really want to get there. But in order for them to get on that high of, I guess, built up to the decision point where they're like, I need to do this because the tension's built up so much, you have to sit in that for a while. And what happens sometimes when sales reps bounce back and forth between problem questions, goal questions, problem questions, goal questions. Again, I'm not saying you're doing that here, but I do want to say it so that you are aware and careful of it. What happens when you're bouncing back and forth is the prospect kind of just stays in this meh zone. They don't get too excited about the goal and they don't get too down in the dumps about the problem. They're kind of just flat the whole time. And then all of a sudden, and then we go for the close. Does that make sense? So
So
again,
first,
I just wanted to let that know. But yeah, go ahead.
like you just have to cover the problems and then
You don't
switch
have
towards the
to.
goal.
And that's why I want to be careful. You don't have to cover the problems first. I've done goals first type calls. I've done problems first type calls. That is going to come down to the types of offer, the types of prospects. Again, you don't have to and it also comes down to what you prefer. I personally prefer going into problems first. Some people prefer going into goals first. But what I will say is pick one, and when you're in that conversation, when you're in that section, don't leave it until it's done. Like, have the full conversation. Totally fine to start goals first, but have the full goal conversation, then move on to the problems. If you want to start problems first, have the full problem conversation, then move on to the goals. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But I'm not going to say like on every sales call ever, no matter what offer, you have to go problems first, because that's just not true. I've seen both work very, very well, and I've done both, and it works, right? But have the full conversation so that you don't have them bouncing all over the place emotionally and just in a gray area, you know? A good thought process for me when it comes to the problem section, the way I like to think about it, and I have a bunch of videos on this in the school as well, so maybe we can I probably dive deeper in those videos, but I like to think of it as like when I ask the first problem question, and I'll end this part with here because I really want this to be the focus for your next role plays. When I ask the first problem question, I know that they're always gonna give me a stated problem, because that's the goal. You want them to just state clearly what a problem is, whether it's I'm struggling to learn how to get into ads. I'm struggling to get leads consistently. Like, what is the problem? I want to, whatever, right? Then you're probing into it by asking yourself constantly, what about this am I still assuming? So it's like, I want to get more. Let's say you said, hey, so what are you struggling with? I want to get more leads. Okay, what does that mean? My leads are inconsistent. Okay, what does that mean? Well, I get some leads Monday, no leads Wednesday, and it's super inconsistent. I'm not making any sales. Okay. Now we can, like, what you want to do is ask yourself, is there anything left to assume about this problem? Have I fully defined the what is going on? If there's anywhere to assume the what is happening, I shouldn't move on to the how long has it been going on for? How does that affect you? Because again, when you great questions, how does that affect you? How long has this been going on for? How often does this happen? Great questions, but you see how if I ask those questions without a fully defined what, I'm now learning more about something that I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? If I haven't defined what the problem is fully, he's saying this undefined, unknown problem has been happening for the last 6 months. What does that do for us? What does that do for the conversation? And what happens to a lot of sales reps is they go the whole call, like they just keep moving on, right? Like they don't fully define it. Then they ask all the listed questions. They get into goals. Then they get into, solutions maybe they've tried, or they get into consequences, whatever they pitch. And now the pitch is where this really shows up, and this becomes a problem, because you might be like, well, it's not a big deal. He needs help with ads, so I'm going to help him with ads. But the pitch is where this problem shows up, because what makes a pitch good is when a prospect feels like you are offering me something that is exactly what I need, right? And there's a big difference from saying, like, let's say you're selling a fitness offer where someone needs help with weight loss, and their biggest struggle with weight loss has been, the fitting in the proper macros, eating enough protein, right? Now let's say you're selling a fitness program that helps with macros, but it also helps with routine, and it also helps with accountability, and it also helps with all these things. But for them, they're like, I really need help with the macros. And based on your discovery, that is where they're missing, right? If you don't fully define the what and get to the bottom and learn that the macros is the big problem, and you just move past it, by the time you get to the pitch, You're pitching a generalized course or a generalized program or a generalized solution. And your pitch might sound like, hey, and this is not how you would actually pitch, but overarchingly, you might just say, hey, our program helps with, workouts and accountability and diet and all that stuff. And it's going to be great. And it's going to be $5,000. And they're like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's what I need help with. Sure. Cool. And then I got to think about it. Let me compare to with other people. Because you just sound like you're everyone else. It's the same. It's the same as everything else. Let's price match. Let's whatever. Versus now the same program, the same offering, but because you define the what, now your pitch sounds like, yeah, we'll help you with the fitness. We'll help you with this, but we're gonna be able to sit down with you, clearly define your macros so that you're getting XYZ, and you're speaking directly to that what. You're speaking directly to that problem. And then when you're done the pitch, how do you feel about it? They're like, man, this is exactly what I need. This is it. And now, because other closers on other offers are going to pitch them general because they might not have probed as deep, they might not have defined it the way you did, and they're going to pitch general. So now when they're thinking about you versus competition, which, as the industry gets more and more popular, people take multiple sales calls. It's not like way back in the day where, you might be the only person they're speaking to. They might have spoken to 5 other people, and the other 4 closers said, yeah, general fitness program, workouts, food, diet, accountability, we got you. And you were the only one who was like, yeah, we got you on that stuff, but we're gonna, and you really specifically spoke to their problem. Now they're seeing the value and they're like, wow. And let's say even if all those programs worked the same way, offered the same thing, helped with macros the same way, but you just highlighted their specific what with detail and tied it in and said, remember how you said that macros was the biggest thing? Well, this is how our program deals with macros, and specifically spoke to it in your pitch. That's going to be their differentiator of why they go with you over everyone else they've spoken to, and why they close right then and there, because they're like, this is exactly what I need. There's no other reason to go with anyone else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you simplified that.
Yeah, and that's why it's very important. It might be like, why ask all this? Why probe so? But that's why it's important, because it shows up there in the pitch. And the last thing I'll say is, so the way I like to break it down is I'm like, define the what, then go into the duration / frequency. So it's like, what's the problem? Probe. Tell me more about that. What do you mean when you say this? You said that. Can you explain that more? Can you elaborate there? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Okay, cool. I've got a full picture on the what. So how long has this been going on for, or how frequent does this happen? It really depends on the nature of the problem, right? Different problems, it might make more sense to say how often does this happen. It might make more sense to say how long has this been happening for, right? So, you use your wisdom there. And then once you're like, okay, now I know what the problem is, I know the duration or frequency of the problem. Now I can ask questions like, how has this impacted you? How has this affected the business's bottom line? Again, the way you word the question is going to depend on the offer and what makes sense, right? How is this taking a toll on you? Whatever, right? And then now they're also in the mindset of like fully present on what's going on. And they're like, wow, I didn't even think about it, but this has been going on for the last 4 years. And then you hit them with the question of and then again, the whole sales call is like this, because now instead of the question being, so how does that make you feel? Like the general question, or how has this affected you? Now the question goes, Waji, how has struggling with your macros for the last 3 years been affecting you? And then the question hits way harder because it's specific and it's direct. And they're like, dang, I've been struggling with macros for the last 3 years. That has taken a toll on me. Rather than just sounding like another scripted sales guy who's just like, so how does that make you feel? How does that affect you? You know what I mean? You see, like it, and then the rest of the call goes like that. Everything else can be targeted and specific, and you're asking questions to specific things that get, and the quality of your questions is going to determine the quality of the answers you get from the prospect. You follow me on that? And then then I'll move into goals. Then I'll be like, all right, now let's talk about goals, because I've fully fleshed out the problem here. Sound good? Any questions on that from anyone? Pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
Everyone's hiding today. We got a silent group.
It's pretty straightforward. Another reason why I was like going really fast because our meeting was about to end, so we also had that time blockage.
No worries,
On
man.
this
I mean, you
meeting.
got lots more opportunities to do role plays, and that's why. And I literally put out. I think I put it out today, actually. Yeah, I literally put it out today. That's why when you're doing role plays, don't worry about like role playing the full call. Be like, you know what? I'm just gonna practice this one piece right now. I'm just gonna spend 20 minutes digging, like on probing or whatever, or I'm gonna spend X amount of time on pitching or whatever. Right? It's okay to isolate parts of your game and practice it. But yeah, I do have to jet early today. Before I get off, I do want to answer any other questions. Well, I know there's one in the chat here. So we do two a week. So this is just like the open one that we do on Mondays. We usually do like a live kind of role play walk through one. Sometimes it's call reviews as well. But on Wednesdays, if you are a part of, I guess it's the Rep Select community subscription, like the sales training one with access to all the courses and everything like that. That's on Wednesdays, a little bit smaller groups. Mondays are a little bit bigger, usually. But yeah, 2 a week, both of them at 4 p.m. Eastern. So that's the times for right now. But yeah, any other questions before I let you guys go?
Yeah.
Cool. Was this at least helpful for some people?
It was really helpful. It was really helpful.
Glad it was
Really
helpful for you,
helpful.
Wachi. Awesome. Well, yeah, glad I could help. I think I got my Fathom in here. Yeah, cool. So we got the recording. I'll make sure to drop the recording as well. And you guys have a good rest of your day. Talk to you
Thank
later.
you, bro. Take care, bro.
Thank you.
Bye.